Dennis Hans Olsen, erstwhile singer, actor, director, pianist. I'm 77, going on 78, and I was born 28th February 1938, for those who sort of would like to be very particular about these things. Fortunately, it wasn't leap year, and it wasn't in danger of being a Frederick. It's marvellous to see you again, because I really so enjoyed the last time we actually spent time together, which was during a season of Pirates of Penzance.
You taught me a lot about the Pirates and the patter songs, and it was a challenge and an honour to keep up with you. You're known for interpreting Noel Coward. You've performed his songs in concerts, you've performed in his plays.
I was introduced to Coward, I suppose, when I joined the amateur theatre. Voraciously read the plays. Always relished that man's turn of phrase and humour. But in Don't Put Your Daughter on the Stage, Mrs. Worthington, I mean, Coward, of course, does all those numbers brilliantly in his own way. I mean, I never tried to emulate what Coward did. I think that the pieces are good enough to withstand a reinterpretation a little bit, and possibly with some new ideas. And there's one tiny little thing that I was quite proud of, which I used to do, which he didn't. And that is, she has nice hands to give the wretched girl her due, but don't you think her bust is too developed for her age? I used to do, she has nice hands to give a wretched, thinking in that tiny split second, what on earth can I say about this wretched girl? And the fact that used to get a laugh, very pleasing.
Quite enough, she has nice hands to give the wretched girl her due, but don't you think her bust is too developed for her age? I repeat, Mrs. Worthington, sweet Mrs. Worthington, don't put your daughter on the stage.
The piano has featured in your life, even though you maybe thought you'd turned your back on it somewhat professionally, but it's come back time and time again, Dennis.
Yes, it has. I've been very grateful that I spent as much time at the keyboard as I did, because within the theatre I've had the opportunity to actually use those skills. Private lives, of course, with Someday I'll Find You. A bit difficult to play when Amanda Muggleton is sitting on your knee and you've got to actually put your arm, and you know, she's nice to put your arms around.
All our past sorrows redeeming.
I was always more terrified doing it than anything else. You're much more exposed at the keyboard, and the opportunity to get out of a sticky problem. If anything goes wrong, you can't ad-lib your way out. The piano can actually be like a coffin in front of you as much as anything else. I think I worked out there have been 7 or 8 plays where the piano has been instrumental in my being cast. Frankly, the fact that I can play the piano.
Was anybody in your family musical or theatrical?
I suppose my family is musical. We were always encouraged with music. There was certainly nothing professional. There were no professional people, to my knowledge. The piano was always part of the furniture in the house. And we were taken, I can remember, to the theatre, to anything that came into town that was considered suitable for general exhibition. And hence my introduction to Gilbert and Sullivan.
To stuff his conversation full of quibble and of quiddity, to dine on chops and roly-poly pudding with avidity.
I was very lucky that my piano teacher was actually a Dominican nun, and a very clever woman.
When you decided to pursue acting more seriously, what had been or what was to be your influences there? Who were your teachers, your mentors in stage work?
I went, primary school was at Semaphore. Did the Dominican convent down there. And so at the end of the year, there was always a play. There was a chook involved somehow and I took along a pet bantam. And I learned at a very young age never to perform with, with animals.
You're on record as saying that you might have had a career playing the piano. Where did the shift come? Where did it start to become more theatrical?
Well, I suppose for a time, James, I tried to juggle several balls in the air at the same time. Because at school I got involved, with theatre, as I say. My final year at school, one of the Morris brothers, I managed to convince him that we should do trial by jury. And I played the judge, of course. and it was a lot to do with trial by jury. The Theory Society, the Catholic group, the theatre group, they came and made us up. And at the end of the performance, Harold Manier, who was a member of the Theory, said that they'd be very keen for me to join when I left school, which I duly did. So I went straight from school to, university. I was going to be a dentist from mad 2 terms. I'd always been fascinated by dentists, and I also liked the costume, the white coat with the buttons on the side. And I thought it was a pretty good look. And it was funny how the cookie crumbled. Robert Quentin, who was the director of NIDA, and NIDA was in its 3rd year, and he was in town. He'd had the auditions, he'd held all the auditions, but anyone wanting a last-minute audition to contact him at the Botanic Hotel for a last-minute audition. So I got to work at Allen's, and I rang, and yes, he would see me at his hotel in my lunch hour. So I went down and I had an audition in the beer garden, I remember. So I did these 2 speeches, and he said, yes, you'll be in. And I said, well, I can't afford it, actually. And he said, I'll try to get you a scholarship, which he did, and I got a very good scholarship, and I ended up going to NIDA, and the rest is sort of, as I say, history.
Was it a life-changing experience, NIDA?
Yes, indeed it was. It was... Well, it was my first time away from home, really. I mean, there I was in the big city in Sydney. And, but the first year, I suppose, I don't know, I probably didn't buckle down as much as I could have, should have, and perhaps as much as I did in the second year. I got the Gallery First Nighters Award for the most promising student, which was fortuitous, really, which was a lot of money. I think it was £200. Because I had £17 in my bank account. And, I don't know what was going to happen to me if that windfall hadn't come into me. I was very grateful to them.
Can you identify a moment or a job offer that really made you think, I've turned a corner here?
Well, I suppose I guess really the major one would certainly be after 2.5 years with the Melbourne Theatre Company in 1967, 8, 9, when in the middle of 1969, I went to John Sumner, who ran the company, and I said, I want to leave before you get rid of me. I think all I meant was that after playing 20 roles or something, there's a danger of overexposure. And I didn't know where I was going to go, but I thought, there must be fresh things now for me to do, something for me to do. I really got home from that interview with John Sumner and the phone rang, and it was the Elizabethan Theatre Trust Opera Company. And was I interested in playing in a Gilbert and Sullivan season for them? Well, of course I was. So they flew me up to Sydney, and there I was, suddenly cast as the Lord Chancellor, Major General and Sir Joseph Porter. And that opened a whole new ball game for me. I'd never even considered that I would be involved in musical theatre really at all. I'd had to sing a little bit occasionally and in some of the plays that were done in Melbourne. But as regards being in the opera world, well, that was startling.
Would any of your colleagues in straight theatre have frowned upon playing in a Gilbert and Sullivan?
No, certainly there was no snobbishness involved with my colleagues at the time. They were all thrilled. Of course, when I went to the company and we started rehearsals, that's when I found a sort of, among some of the opera company, what are we doing these trivial little shows for, singing in English? And I also remember the first sing-through of Pirates. You know, you sit around in a semicircle, and you know, things started off with being a bit ho-hum, and we got to when the foeman bears his due, tarantara, tarantara, and you know, the feet started to just go up and down in time with the music, and then everybody started to join in the tarantaras. The whole thing is so irresistible. It's anyway. I've loved it always, and my joy with it is still, with me. Thank God.
Let's celebrate and cultivate an underrated nobleman, the Duke of Plaza Toro.
The first show that was Iolanthe, which opened the Elizabethan Theatre Trust opera season at the Madge in Sydney. And that was, I'll never forget that opening night, because I had no preconception of what was going to happen. These were the days when they used to page the curtain. You know, there'd be the company curtain calls, and then the stage manager would come and hold the curtain out, and you'd take your individual calls in front of the curtain. And I remember I was the last to go out, and the house erupted, and I just burst into tears. It was totally, it was mind-blowing. I have to say, not a firm traditionalist, but I think to throw out the window Gilbert's intention, Sullivan's orchestration, yeah, it gives me the willies. The beauty of the opera company season that I did was actually hearing the music treated with great respect for the first time. The old J.C. Williamson shows that I'd heard at the Theatre Royal here when I was a kid, I remember looking down and there'd be one cello, and to actually, I mean, it was still a pit orchestra for the opera company, but they were all fine players, and the music was treated with great respect, and I love that.
Is there anything about your physique that has let you be cast certain ways over time?
The legs actually somehow got to be quite famous. I've got in my scrapbook, I've got a 2-page spread of the wittiest legs in the business, Yeah. I think the whole body has to actually, you've got to incorporate the whole body. The lean and hungry look, it's less lean and not at all hungry now, but the lean and hungry and it epitomised, I think, by Coward, You're nice and thin, you move easily. I'm afraid you're terribly attractive. Voice. In the business, I covered the years where microphones, personal microphones, started to be used. I have experienced televisual performances, because in big theatres sometimes, because people just fall back because they know that if they talk like this, it'll all be picked up. So that, that you got that much energy and that much sort of where's the power in it?
Favourite role?
Favourite role? Oh, look, there are several, I suppose. In two different sort of genres. I adored playing Percy Granger in Percy and Rose. That was a role really to get your teeth into. But for the other side, Elliot in Private Lives has to be an actor's dream if you are inclined that way to appreciate that sort of writing.
Have you ever done a concert, a performance, a play, a Gilbert and Sullivan or something which doesn't perhaps have the prestige to make it to your top list of printable things, but that you're really proud of?
I think probably one of the things that I have a very fond memory of is playing in Lockington Station, which is a cattle station in Queensland, not far outside Boguntungan. I played Shylock on a tennis court with the young Elizabethan players, and that was knockout. We did it at night with the generator behind us going dagga 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 dagga, because we had to have a bit of light somehow. But they flew in from all over. They came in their forward. This is back in, I don't know, 1963 or something. Came in their four-wheel drives, and the matriarch of the whole district, I remember, a very old woman, she sat in a wicker chair in the centre. The kids were all on rugs and cushions on the front. People in a semicircle around us. And that dear old woman hadn't been, she was English originally. She hadn't been able to see any theatres since she left London back in 1920, whatever it was. It was, that's pretty special.
Sometimes we're given in the text a lyric or a bit of dialogue, a monologue, maybe a nonsensical word.
Habadini, ha, all those things. Oh, no, that's not a problem.
You're a master of finding those moments and making them a moment.
Well, just leave yourself open, I think.
Could you talk about the stage, a theatre?
Oh, certainly. The buzz of, not because, I worked at the Sydney Opera House really quite a lot, including in its quite early years. And we used to drive past and you'd park in the Botanical Gardens area, and to walk up, along the side of the harbour and look up and think, this bloody factory, how extraordinary that I'm privileged enough to be going into this place to work. That was always a thrill. It's been a pretty good 40-something years.
Dennis, it was a thrill to meet you some years back and work with you and conduct productions that you were in, but it has been another privilege to sit down and have a conversation with you and explore some of these things. Thank you.
James, it's been great. Thank you.
My guest has been Dennis Olsen. Thank you for watching. My name is James Pratt, and I'll see you next time.
Say you love me too. Someday I'll find you. again.